The M&G Literary Festival runs at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg from August the 28th to September the 2nd. This is the third M&G Literary Festival. We restarted the event in 2010 after quite a long absence. So it's really the spiritual and intellectual successor to the weekly Mail book fairs, which used to be held in the 1980s and 1990s. And many of them were held at the Market Theatre, so it's re-establishing that relationship with the market. It's really a festival that aims to look at what is being written in and about South Africa, not necessarily by South Africans, but it looks at fiction and non-fiction and poetry, really all the sort of literary genres and what they're saying about living in South Africa, being South African, and of course more broadly, because not all of these books are set here, really about what it is, I suppose, to live in the 21st century world, or in fact, some of them might be historical novels, so they're reflections on human experience. The book weeks used to be very volatile events because of the political and social conditions of the time. There were some very memorable, I suppose, incidents in the sense, I think one particularly that everybody would remember, there was a very fierce debate between J.M. Coetzee and Nadine Gordimer, and in some ways it's very appropriate that Nadine Gordimer is going to be at the festival on its first night in discussion with Mongani Wally Soroti. South African literature has not become less political at all. I think in many ways it's more political because the rise of non-fiction memoirs and histories of life under apartheid or the post-apartheid sort of situation. There's an enormous, I think, explosion, especially in terms of personal memoirs, stories about people's lives which couldn't be told before. And of course, the current situation of the country is highly politicized, as volatile as it ever was. Inevitably, with any literary festival in South Africa, you're going to have an enormous political component, and it will in fact seem like a whole discussion about politics, sociology, economics, the fabric of society, not just intimate, novelized, fictionalized lives. We've got Breyten Breitenbach, who really has not been seen publicly on this kind of literary platform for a long time. He's going to be performing some of his poetry with Rustam Kruzain. Another of the sessions, which I think will be enormously interesting, is how I learned to stop worrying and love the tablet, which is really all about how people will read or how people do read. So I think what we've tried to do very much this year is to try to look at the whole spectrum of writing, reading, writers, readers. So there's something from, a session on children's fiction and how children read and learn to read, right up to, very high-end literary stuff. There's a panel on South African literature and all the very heavy tomes that have come out in the last year. And in between we've packed in a whole lot of things, sort of non-fiction about Joburg, fiction about Joburg, poetry performances. There's a new kind of writing that is shown in the Youngster series, which is sort of not instant but quick and fast and different in terms of its in terms of how it's written and how it's received. So I think we've really tried to encapsulate the whole spectrum of writing and publishing in the country at the moment.